This takes place in a fairly large city, roughly 8 or so years ago. I'm female, and at the time I was in my mid-20s. There used to be a gay bar that did goth nights every Saturday night, and I would head out there fairly often with my friends. This night there was a group of about 5 of us that went together. Plus we always ran into more people we knew once we got there. At some point I left my friends on the dance floor and went up to the bar to get another drink. It was pretty crowded, so the only space I could squeeze into was next to some guy on a bar stool at the very end of the counter. I ordered my drink and he looked over and said hello. He had a pretty interesting accent, so I asked him where he was from. He replied that he was originally from Ethiopia. We made small talk as I was waiting for my drink, and I commented that I had a neighbor as a child that was from Ethiopia as well. The exact details of the conversation are a bit hazy though. It was years ago after all, and to be fair, I wasn't paying super close attention at the time. So I'm not sure how the conversation went in this direction, but I do remember his words snapping my brain's focus back onto him. I killed people there. Oh, well, I awkwardly laughed, thinking maybe this was just some weird drunk guy thinking he would say weird creepy things to the goth girl at the bar. Maybe it was his really bad attempt at flirting. My drink arrived and I remember stirring it and trying to ease my way out of the conversation, but I was still waiting for my change. You used to kill people? He shook his head and replied casually, No, I still do. Uh-huh. My change could not arrive fast enough. I tried another awkward laugh and made some snarky comment about how I was fat and if he tried to kill me, I'd fight back and sit on him. I don't know, I had no idea what to say in this situation. Again, casually, without any emotion in his voice, he replied, There's no trying. If I decide to kill somebody, I kill them. My change finally arrived and I took my drink, which I had not let leave my hand or line of sight for an instant, excused myself and headed back over to my friends on the dance floor. I watched as he turned on his stool so he could keep an eye on me. He just sat there sipping his own drink, never looking away. Finally, at some point, I saw him put down his empty glass and move out the front door. I sighed in relief and continued on to enjoy my night. Several hours later, the goth night was ending and the next theme DJ was taking over. My friends and I were saying our goodbyes and I started walking to the front door. I turned around to see the friend that had given me a ride was stuck in conversation with another acquaintance, so I waited near the door just inside the building. That's when he grabbed me. The guy from the bar dragged me in farther into a dark corner out of line of the exit. I was in shock and couldn't make a sound at first as he pinned me to the wall, face pressed against it, and twisted one of my arms behind my back. It seemed like an eternity he held me there, pushing himself up firmly behind me, almost like he was trying to hide me in even more shadows. There were no lights near us and no reason for anyone to walk by this corner. Even if I yelled, I wasn't sure if anyone would hear me since the DJ had started up. Somehow I managed to shove myself back against him, once my fight instincts kicked in. In his surprise, his grip loosened just a bit, and the angle he held me at relaxed. And I managed to shove my fist against his balls. I have no idea to this day how I actually bent myself around in just the right way, but he doubled over and I ran. I grabbed my friend out of her conversation and breathlessly gave a Cliff's Notes version of what happened, as I dragged her to the back emergency exit. Before I could escape, I was stopped by security. He told me I couldn't go that way and I had to leave through the front of the bar. I tried to explain to him that there was a guy up there that had tried to attack me, but he wouldn't listen or just tuned it out, so he probably thought I was just some drunk girl. Thankfully, my friend and I managed to get the attention of a few other people we knew, and we headed out the front as a group. I didn't see the guy anywhere, but I was terrified of getting through the dark parking lot to the car. I just knew he could be out there hiding somewhere. My friend and I ran as fast as we could and drove into the car, and she pulled out of the parking space before I could even get my seatbelt on. The creeper dude was nowhere to be seen. I checked the news the next day to see if there had been any other attacks or murders in the area or anything crazy, but there was nothing. I don't really remember much of his features or what he was wearing, or even how he sounded, but I'll never forget the emotionless, blank, matter-of-fact way he stated that he killed people and the way his dark eyes stared at me like I was prey. I'm a 24-year-old woman. So, I have a Wi-Fi enabled baby monitor in my bedroom so we can watch my 5-month-old son when he's sleeping in his bassinet when my husband and I are downstairs. I tend to be nude when in my bedroom on the second story of my house, as I don't have central air and it's summer in Wisconsin, USA, and today it's currently over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I was lying in bed drinking a beer and watching TV when I noticed the light blinking on the baby monitor, which was currently facing toward the bed, as my son had been in a co-sleeper on the bed with my husband last night. I work overnight shifts in a hospital. For our monitor, a light blinking on it means that somebody is watching via the website or the app for the monitor. I jokingly sent a text calling my husband a creeper and was flipping off the camera and talking to it, but found it odd that it took him several minutes to read my message. He was at work at this time. When he finally responded, I could say the cliche, my blood ran cold, but that would be embellishing. He said he hadn't opened the app for the camera in weeks and definitely wasn't the one watching and advised that I unplugged the camera, which I did. I don't know who was watching me or how they could have gotten a hold of the login info for the monitor. My name is Kai. I'm 22 years old, male, living in Belgium, and this happened to me in August 2024. Even now, it still feels surreal when I think about it. That night I was at home, doing what I usually do, playing on my PC late into the night. I've always been a night person, so being awake at 3 a.m. wasn't unusual for me. Around that time, I started feeling really hungry. Not just slightly hungry, but the kind of hunger that makes you unable to focus on anything else. I went downstairs to check the kitchen, hoping to find something quick to eat. The fridge was mostly empty and the cabinets weren't any better, so I made an impulsive decision. I drive to the McDonald's in Brussels. It's open 24/7 and it's a pretty well-known spot. I got into my car, an old 2005 Toyota Aygo, and drove there. The streets were quiet, almost empty, with that strange calm atmosphere cities have in the middle of the night. I parked, went inside, ordered my food, and went back to my car. Normally, I always take my food home, but that night I was so hungry that I decided to eat right there in the driver's seat. I put a video on my phone, which was mounted on a holder on my dashboard, and just sat there eating. It felt completely normal, peaceful even. After I finished eating, the fatigue hit me all at once. It was late, I was exhausted, and without really thinking about it, I told myself I'd just close my eyes for a few minutes. That was a mistake. I fell asleep. I don't know how exactly long I was out, but it couldn't have been more than 30 minutes. I woke up suddenly. I woke up because somebody had opened my passenger door. At first, my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. I was still half asleep, disoriented, and confused. There was a man standing right next to me. A homeless man. He was inside my car. He looked at me and asked me for food. My heart started pounding immediately. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and completely caught off guard. Still half asleep, I told him. Sorry, I don't have anything left. He looked disappointed, but he didn't leave. Instead, he started going through the McDonald's bag, searching for leftovers, maybe fries I hadn't finished. Those 10 seconds felt incredibly long. I didn't know how he would react. I didn't know if he was dangerous, and I didn't want to escalate the situation, so I told him I was going to leave. I grabbed my phone and clipped it onto the holder to turn on the GPS. And in that exact moment, everything happened. He grabbed my phone and ran. It took me less than a second to understand what just happened. I jumped out of my car and started chasing him, yelling even. Help, he stole my phone. But it was too late. He was already far ahead of me, disappearing into the dark streets of Brussels. I stopped, breathing heavily, adrenaline flooding my body. Then the anger hit me. I got back into my car and started driving around, desperately trying to find him. My hands were shaking and I was furious. I had never felt that kind of rage in my life before. I remember thinking that if I found him, I didn't know what I would do. That's when something unexpected happened. A man approached me. His name was Pierre. I'd never met him before. He told me he lived in an apartment nearby and had seen everything from his window, and he came down to help. A complete stranger at 4 a.m. offering to help another stranger. He got into my car and we started driving around together, searching for any sign of the guy, but nothing. Then Pierre asked me something that changed everything. Is your phone trackable? And suddenly I remembered. Yes, it was. And more importantly, I always kept my mobile data on, which meant my phone was still online, still connected and still traceable. We used his computer and I logged into the tracking app, and there it was. My phone, located, just 3 minutes away. We drove there immediately. The area was dark and quiet. We saw 2 homeless men lying on the ground, apparently sleeping. At that moment, I was filled with anger and I wanted to confront them immediately, but Pierre stopped me and he stayed calm. Instead, I used the app's feature to make the phone ring. We turned off the engine. Everything was silent, and then we heard it, a ringtone, somewhere nearby. I followed the sound, my heart pounding harder than ever. And there it was, my phone. I picked it up and the feeling of relief was overwhelming. Pierre had stayed with me for over 2 hours, helping me recover something that wasn't even his. He didn't have to do that, but he did. I thanked him more times than I can remember. What scares me the most isn't the theft itself. It's the fact that I woke up with a stranger inside my car while I was completely vulnerable. Since that night, I always make sure my doors are locked, and I will never fall asleep in my car again. I'm in school and still work for my family member on certain weekends at a local college selling concessions at the stadium. It's about once or twice a month, and the stadium is off towards the edge of town. It's Friday night, and I just got out of school, and I had to go straight to work. I get to work for 4 hours, half shift tonight, and my boss, my aunt, tells me we need more spoons for tomorrow's event. We sell ice cream, and these events have like 5,000 plus people at them. I say, okay, I'll go grab them on my way home. The only store open with heavy-duty spoons is all the way on the other side of town, and I still wanted to go meet up with some of my friends and mess around. I decided to take the faster but more sketchy way around the outskirts of town. I live in a weather bipolar state, and it snowed last night, but I figured the roads would be fine enough even if they weren't plowed. I take off to the store, and the first 5 minutes go by and nothing's wrong. I haven't seen a single car or any buildings the entire time, but keep in mind it's approaching 9 p.m. and I'm on the outskirts of town, and no one really takes this way unless they really have to. All of a sudden, I see something in the corner of my eye, and it looks like a man. Roughly 5'8", I'd say, wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and a backwards hat. He's in the ditch walking in snow when it's 10 degrees out. My first thought is to pull over, but I'm on the phone with my mom at the time, and she warns me not to, as some things have happened before in this town. Example, a couple of years ago, a college girl was kidnapped and found dead, rolled up in a rug in 2014. I considered stopping, but for some reason I tell myself not to. I wasn't really worried about anything. I'm a young dude driving a big pickup truck. Last type of person anyone would want to harm, right? I passed the man going about 40 miles per hour. Like I said, roads aren't the best. I drive not even 500 feet past him, and immediately, a car that I did not see at all before turns on and pulls out of a field entrance off the road and starts to follow me. First, I thought I was just focused on the man in the ditch and didn't see a road, and that's where they came from, but I later found out that there was not a road there. Now again, I'm not super worried. I've watched my fair share of crime movies and read plenty of stories on this sub, and I didn't feel it was a real threat yet. I start to approach the town again and have to take some turns to get where I'm going. I turn left and the car turns left. Turn right and the car turns right. I go around a roundabout and skip my turn and go twice, as nobody else was there. The car follows. At this point I start to worry a little bit, but maybe they just need to go to the store also. I then pull up to a stop sign. I wasn't on the best side of town either, may I add, and I turn without my signal. The car still follows. Now at this point, I should have gone straight to the police station, and I know that, but I still didn't think much of it. I'm 2 miles from the store where plenty of people will be. I take a few more turns, and the car continues to follow me. I completely blew a stop sign at a non-busy intersection, and the car did a quick stop and go and caught up. At this point, I'm 2 turns from the store, so I'm still not worried. I turn into the store and the car turns also. The store also has a gas station, so I pull there first to act like I was getting gas. The car sits off to the side of the road, in between the gas station and store, and just sits there. I wait about 10 minutes and the car doesn't move. At this point, I start to get worried. I'm a young kid alone at night near the bad side of town. I call my friends I'm supposed to meet up with later and give them the license plate for the worst case scenario, then take off to the store. I cross the street and the car comes straight behind me. I'm freaking out about the phone, not knowing if I should call the cops or not. I go and park as close as possible to the store, and the car parks 3 rows behind me and a couple down. It's getting late at this point, and the stores are closing soon. There are only a couple others in the lot. I turn my truck back on and go park on the complete opposite side of the lot. Get out and completely bolt inside the store. I'm not super overweight, but I'm not skinny either. I'm like 6'1" and 200. Who would want anything to do with me? I get spoons and take my time in the store. I go to call my friends to walk back outside, and my phone is dead. I look out the sliding doors, and suddenly there's a white van next to my driver's side. It looks like nobody's in it, but the back windows are covered and it's running. I run to customer service and explain everything, but they think I'm some young kid messing around. At the time, I didn't see the original car, but no way in heck am I going outside with that van next to my truck. After waiting for what seemed like hours, probably 30 minutes, the van pulls forward and the original car appears from the side of the building. You can see from the in-store Starbucks window that they talked, and then they both drove off. I wait another 10 minutes and dash outside. Speed to my friend's house, and when I get there, I park in his garage. One buddy asked why there's a big orange mark on my tire, and my heart sank. When I was inside, the following car must have marked my tire. After inspecting the rest of my truck, we find a small pipe dropped in the bed of my truck, surrounded by snow. It was about 2 inches wide and I'd say about 18 inches long, wrapped in duct tape. It was not mine. I was alone, no phone, scared in a part of town that I'm not familiar with. I try to laugh it off, but now that everyone's asleep, I can't help but think about what would have happened if I had walked outside. I've always been sort of ego boosted by the fact I'm a fat, chubby dude. that nobody would want to mess with, but after tonight I realize anyone can be targeted. I live in a cute podunk town in Japan. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everyone, and I teach the kids of my mechanic, landlord, etc. I can play Pokemon Go at 3 AM with not a single worry in the world besides mosquito bites and an errant spider web. Or I could. See, there have been some new boys in town. We're not sure where they work. Their English is decent, and they're from Sri Lanka. The ones I've spoken to at least, and they're incredibly horny for non-Japanese women. Like insanely. Like every day, if they catch you, they'll tell you it's their last day in town before they go home, so won't you please hang out with them so they can leave on a good note? They harassed a friend of mine down the road a few months back and caught me once late at night. Luckily I was driving, so I zoomed away after an awkward conversation. My friend was severely pressured to hang out at one guy's place. She's from a small city in Hungary, so she wasn't used to stuff like that, but I told her to screw politeness if it ever happened again. Recently the heat has kept them away, or they really did go home for a bit, but now they are back. I just got back from walking to the local corner shop, a 5-minute walk. I was almost at my apartment and a car slowed down as I headed down the last 50 feet to my apartment complex. It idles behind me as I grumble about how I'm not so fat that they can't just drive around me. The car creeps slowly behind me and then alongside, and the windows roll down. "Oh," he says chirpily, as it isn't after midnight and he isn't being a creep. "Hello, where are you from?" I reply, "America," reflexively, since I'm asked all the time, but I recover enough to follow it with, "You're being really creepy, so go away please." Unfortunately, when I get disquieted, I tend to reflexively use please and sorry excessively. As I said it, he was leaning his car to the left to make it difficult for me to walk past him, since I was walking along a wall. When I called him out, he actually stopped the car and I continued on my way, heart fluttering but doing my best to feign confidence by continuing to walk normally. He then drove past me. I made sure he saw me walking towards the opposite side of the apartments, then dodged up the covered stairwells on the correct side so he couldn't come back and see my apartment number. Luckily, I live in a very small community and have a great relationship with my bosses. I'm going to make a big stink about this come Monday. I've dealt with shit like this in the States, but a group of bros trying to cajole women as they please is not something that I'll be tolerated by the locals or me. I've got a baby face and usually seem quite tame, so men tend to aim for me as if I'm naive, but I'm not letting that shit slide.